All right, Thursday, mark it down. That is the day we are told that the redacted, the question is how much of it is redacted. Mueller report is due out so the world can see, or a good chunk of the world can see, exactly what is in it. Democrats have bemoaned the Attorney General's characterization of that report. Let's go right to the Independent Women's Forum, Patrice Onwuka. We've got progressive commentator Rashad Richey and Trump 2020 Strategic Communications Director Marc. Welcome to you all. Patrice, I think this will always be gleaned through the prism of the beholder, right? If you don't like the president or are suspicious of the findings, you'll find something you don't like. If you do, you'll find something you like. But on the key issue of collusion, if the Attorney General is proven accurate in his characterization that there was no collusion, does that put it to bed?
I would hope it would. Unfortunately, I think we've already seen some left-leaning outlets like Slate already saying that this report, whatever happens, will be incomplete and will not put, will undermine in people's minds or not put to rest in Americans' minds whether there really was collusion. I think it's important, a storyline or a narrative for the left to keep up because it undermines the good work that the Trump administration has accomplished in terms of the economy. And going into 2020 with not much else to run on, I think progressive lawmakers are going to have to find a way to keep this narrative going.
Rashad, I'm sure you have other views on Democratic candidates who have other things to run on, but leaving that aside, do you suspect here that if there is much redacted, maybe for perfectly valid legal reasons, people who were never indicted or charged with a crime and you want to protect their identity, et cetera, is that going to be good enough?
It is going to be politicized. It will not be good enough, Neil, no matter how this report comes out, because you will see tremendous redaction in the report. Now, Barr is making a move in the right direction. Release the report. Constitutionally, he has protections because of the safety nets you just described. But against Congress, he does not have the same protection. So if the appropriate committee in Congress says, hey, Barr, the Attorney General, we need the report. If he decides to basically say no or ignore an appropriate request from the oversight of Congress, you will have a major problem, and I suspect more subpoenas will come after that.
All right, so Marc, just to take Rashad at his word here, they're going to argue for the entire report. Everything has been redacted as well. Could an agreement be made where they have to swear on their honor not to release those redacted parts? Let's say committee members themselves could get a chance to see what was redacted for their own value, because that would get out too, right?
Well, I think one of the things we have to look at here is what kind of precedent would it be setting, and it could come back in a negative way in some future non-related way. Those are the things that the executive branch has to look at. You have to look at beyond just the specifics of an individual case in front of you, but what kind of precedent is that going to set in the future? And to your earlier point, I mean, nothing is going to satisfy the Democrats. They keep going witch hunt after witch hunt, and they'll invent some new ones. Now they're actually going after accounting firms. Nothing that this president can show will ever be enough information for them. They just need to keep their angry base motivated, and that's what they're trying to do.
Rashad, I did want to go right back to you on that issue because, and I will go to you, Patrice, but Rashad, the one thing that stuck in my mind is Rod Rosenstein, the deputy and outgoing number 2 at the Justice Department, had supported Barr in his initial findings and didn't see any untoward going on. And I'm just wondering whether that was good enough for Democrats. In other words, if there was anything wrong with the characterizations and the bullet points that the Attorney General raised from the Mueller report, certainly Mueller himself, certainly Rod Rosenstein would have flashed the world on it, right?
Yeah, you think so, but Neil, remember, there are valid reports that came from investigators that work with Mueller saying, hey, the characterization that the Attorney General is giving is not accurate to the actual findings of this 400-page report.
But so what if it is, Rashad? What if it is? That's what I'm asking. What if it confirms what Rod Rosenstein said and that what Mueller's intent was, that there was just not enough proof?
Neil, I wrote an article, an opinion piece for FoxNews.com, and it's titled, Mueller was never the answer for Democrats. And I stand by that piece because at the end of the day, regardless if you find some levels of collusion or not, this is not what Democrats should hang their hat on. They should hang their hat on actual policy items that American people have to deal with every day.
Patrice, is it your belief here that once this redacted report, I guess it depends on how much of it is redacted, comes out, that this thing is put to bed, or does it continue. Of course, we do know a lot of, other investigations that are going on in circuit courts around the country. So that won't change. And I have the feeling that once this is out, the debate over this won't change.
It won't. What's interesting is once you step outside of this Beltway bubble, maybe even the New York bubble, most Americans really don't care about the Mueller report. And if they do hear a headline, then it comes out that there was no collusion between President Trump and his campaign and the Russian government, then yeah, it's a big to-do about nothing. Millions of tax dollars spent, but we do understand that Russia was trying to interfere in our elections. And so I think the bigger question is, well, what is Congress going to do next? How are they going to continue to ensure the integrity of our electoral system? And unfortunately, the discussion has not centered around that at all.
When this is all put to bed one way or the other, Marc, do you think in 2020, and that's assuming it's put to bed, it's an issue?
I don't think it'll be an issue for most voters. I think many Democrats will continue to make it an issue. And to be quite frank, it doesn't matter what is contained in those 400 pages. None of it amounted to collusion. None of it amounted to obstruction. And you had the special counsel, the deputy attorney general, and the attorney general all say no obstruction, no collusion. But the Democrats are going to try to keep it going because they don't want to talk about things like the American people getting a tax cut today or the jobs and the unemployment rate. That's just not, they're not going to win on an economic message, so they've got to go with this, these fake witch hunts and investigations.